Everybody, Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity. If you've followed me for very long at all, you know that I love turning you guys on to someone you probably haven't heard of before. And unless you're from upstate New York, and I mean like really upstate New York, like Niagara Falls, unless you're from there, you probably haven't heard of Jamie Holka. Jamie's a phenomenal guitar player, and he's a very busy guitar player for up in that neck of the woods. I mean, he's a full-time musician, makes a living doing this. But he's teamed up with a gentleman by the name of Bobby Rondinelli. Bobby's a drummer who's played with Black Sabbath, Blue Oyster Cult, Rainbow, Quiet Riot. I mean, serious stuff. He's a serious drummer, highly professional. He and Jamie teamed up and they've come out with this album called The Gathering. And man, this album, I know I always say it, but I only bring things to you that I think are worthy of your listening. And this album is one of those albums. It is not lightweight. It is heavy duty. I would call it maybe rock fusion or a blend of rock and jazz. You might want to call it prog, but I don't think it's that. I challenge you to listen to it and you come up with a good genre name for it, because this thing is killer. Absolutely killer. Top shelf musicianship all the way through it. Expertly written songs, expertly recorded, expertly produced. You're going to love it. Absolutely going to love it. You got some heavy hitters on there. A couple of, I'll just throw out at you. Mark Rivera. He was the sax player on the Foreigner album of fame, of that fame. He's Ringo Starr's guy. He's Billy Joel's guy. And we're talking about woodwinds. We're talking about playing sax. That's Mark Rivera. I interviewed him several years ago. Need to interview him again. Billy Sheehan, big time bass player. Just two examples of the heavy hitters on this album. So please, when you hear this, the album's going to drop right after you hear this, order it, buy it, get a physical copy of it. It's that good. You're going to want it. While you're listening to this interview, please hit like, please hit subscribe. It's not going to cost you anything, but it helps me out a lot. And share it with your friends, especially the people who love serious musicianship. This is one of those albums they're going to want to know about. So without any further ado, here's what I hope are the first of many more interviews to come with Jamie Holka. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care. Hello, Jamie.
Randy, how you doing?
Doing great. You can see
Can you hear me
okay, I take it. Yeah, sure can.
Okay, cool. I didn't know if it was better to put these in or not. So
I do. I have them on mine just so that, you know, don't get the echo effect or anything.
Gotcha, man. Cool.
Where are you clicking in from?
Niagara Falls, New York.
Oh, wow. I have never been up there. I've been to New York City and, you know, between Philly and New York City, but I've never been much past that. So I understand it's beautiful there.
Probably about 450 miles, from there, from the city. But,
oh, really? That far?
Yeah. We're almost to Canada, man. I'm 5 minutes from the border.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So if you ever wanted to dodge the draft, you could do it, right? So very easy.
Plus I had flat feet too, so I had a double.
My dad got out of it because he was colorblind. So
yeah, it was weird stuff back then. It's how it used to be.
Yeah, it was a different world then. So
yeah, man.
Thank you for joining me. This is going to be a lot of fun. I think when Steve Karras sent me the information on your album and I listened to it, I mean, it was like immediate. Well, first of all, I know when Steve contacts me,
yeah,
I can literally not listen to what he's sending me. And I have literally on occasion told him, well, let's just book something. I know I'm going to like it. So you got a great guy in Steve, and I love him. He's my brother from another mother, Yeah,
so. Man, we're really lucky to have him involved. It's it's the only way this thing is kind of gonna get out there. You know what I mean? Social media is cool and you can do a certain amount with it, but he's he's got feelers all over the world. So
Yeah.
Where are you from, Randy? Where are you at?
I am in, I'm going to quote the Beatles, the Smoky Mountains way down south. I'm a couple miles up the road from Dollywood in
Oh, okay.
Sevierville, Tennessee.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm just
Nice,
outside of
man.
Knoxville. So,
That's for I got my one guitar, my acoustic guitar. Uh, there was a dealer in Knoxville that I got it from because it's a weird Australian thing, and only a few places carry the thing, and the place is no longer there. But it's called Broadway Music. It was in Knoxville, but that's where I got my one guitar from, and
what
yeah,
brand is it?
a Maton, Maton. It's an Australian. It's an acoustic
Uh,
thing. Um, Tommy Emmanuel. The you ever hear
I was
Tommy the
just going to
finger
ask
style?
you if he had anything to do with it. So,
Tommy, yeah, like Tommy was the guy that kind of brought that brand into people hearing about it. And I had another buddy of mine, Adam Rafferty, another world class fingerstyle guy who I bring into town every so often. I got to play in his guitar, and the way it sounds plugged in, it's like the best sounding electric acoustic. So I had to get one, and yeah,
all right. So I got to ask you, how many guitars do you have? Do you know?
um, I just have my
And
64
your
Strat.
secret's safe with me. I won't tell your wife if
No,
she
it's
has a
funny,
different
man.
number in mind.
I only have what I use. So I have my 64 Strat. I got an old Telly, not as old as my Strat. I've got the Maton. I've got what I call my couch guitar. It's like a John Lennon Casino Epiphone that was given to me from an old time guitar student when he passed away. They said, "Hey, we want Jamie to have this guitar." So I got four guitars, man. That's it.
Oh wow.
That's
So
it.
so you're
I only. Oh, I'm sorry. My Gibson L5, my big hollow body, my
I,
Gibson.
okay.
So five.
So, so you're not out there competing against Bonamassa on buying guitars, huh?
I've never been that guy. I just that's a weird deal because what ends up happening is these guys buy all these instruments. You can't play them all. They end up sitting or hanging on the wall. Or John Entwistle from the Who was like they had 400 instruments and they showed them and he had them all in these guitar cases in a room stacked up. And I don't know, like they should be played. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
people like to
I
have stuff for some reason. I don't know. I'm not one of
Bonamassa.
them guys.
Well, you can't see it because I got your album cover behind me, but you should see the books behind me. I'm kind of like that with books and
Yeah,
autograph album covers. But I read on social media, Bonamassa posted somebody asked him, I'm sure he gets the question a million times how many guitars he had, and I want to say he said he had like 600.
it's
And then
crazy.
and I just watched the documentary on Norman's rare guitars out in
Right.
California, and they were talking to his wife, and they said, obviously Norman's not going to be doing this forever. What's going to happen with the store? And she said, "Well, I'd kind of like for Joe Bonamassa to take it over with." And
Right.
that begged the
Right.
question: who has more guitars, Norman or Joe? You
It's
know?
crazy. No, it's people, it's like anything, I guess. People collect stuff. I never was a collector. I just, there's some things I wish I had back because I would always have to kind of sell something to get something else.
Yeah,
There's a few things I wish I still had, but, again, I'm just like a working player. And so, yeah, I mean, if I ever made a little bit of money, there'd maybe be like maybe one or two more guitars I'd like to own, but I'm getting by with the essentials.
gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah,
Well, man,
man.
I love your record. This is a
Really,
great record. I really do. I've been listening to it, and it's every time I listen to it, I hear something different, and I just
really.
love the
Okay.
vibe of it, the sound. How would you categorize the album genre wise?
Well, I mean, when I was a teenager and started playing, I immediately was into like, the albums. Like my brother would pass albums down to me, like El Di Meola, some of the early El Di Meola stuff, and I always loved like Edgar Winter's Frankenstein. Like I just got used to hearing instrumentals, and I listen to a lot of different music. There's a lot of different styles that I like to play. So I don't know how to really categorize it because it's instrumental music. we went in a lot of different directions on different tunes with, feel and style. So it's kind of weird. I'm hoping someone else can put it in a box, because I don't know. You know what I mean? It's weird when it's your music. Um, to categorize it's funny because me and my wife just went on vacation, and on the plane I watched this documentary on yacht rock, right? And so it was
Yeah.
Steely Dan, who's my all-time favorite, Steely Dan and the Doobies and Christopher Cross and all these guys. But yacht rock is such a jive term for that great music. You know what I mean? It's like,
Hmm.
so it's weird. But I mean, for me, I think it certainly has a rock feel, because I mean Bobby Rondinelli is a rock drummer. You know what I mean?
Right.
But Bobby also kind of has like that old jazz sensibility, like the way he plays the snare drum. So it's really, I guess it would be considered instrumental rock as an overall blanket, uh, category. But I don't know. I really don't know.
The phrase that came to my mind is almost like rock fusion,
Sure.
rock jazz fusion. I mean, I don't think it falls into prog at all, but
Right.
I could see where some people would think that, but I don't. I personally, when I heard it, I felt more like rock and jazz together,
Right. Yeah.
and I love that
Yeah.
blend.
Yeah. I mean, like, see, like when I think of fusion, that's when I start thinking of, like, Chick Corea and Alan Holsworth and some really out there playing, whereas this album, like Bobby Rondinelli, was really, he produced the hell out of me. Like, he made me really kind of, take a look at what I was doing. And like I said, he really produced me personally, the way I played on the album, because I was trying all kinds of stuff. Um, and he would all, he would say if it was good, he would say if it was bad. He would say, hey, why don't you try a little more melody here? Why don't you play a little more like a groove here? Why don't and luckily I was able to, go in those different directions. So I do got to give Bobby a lot of credit for the way it sounds and the way I played on it. I've never had anybody produce me, and he had a really good ear for it.
Well, if I read correctly and am remembering correctly, this is your first non-indie album. Is that correct?
Correct.
So how was that different? I want to get into the specifics of the album, but in the actual recording of it, how was it different working with a label versus your being an indie?
Well, I mean, the label is it wasn't really the label as much as it was Bobby, because we kind of, we hired him to be the drummer and to produce. And so it was kind of like we put the trust in him, in his instincts, because we knew he had done this Leslie West album prior. And I mean, the Leslie West album Bobby produced had, I mean, it was a who's who, Slash, the guitar, Elliot Easton from the Cars on guitar, Robbie Krieger from the Doors on guitar.
That was the last
Um,
album Leslie did, right before he died.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And Bobby produced it. And there's all these cats, man, all these names, Ingve and, all these, singers. It was crazy. So we kind of figured, and I was a fan of Bobby's since the 80s as a kid, listening to Rainbow. And so, I just had a feeling about him that he could do it. I mean, he got it. He understood. I just knew he had the sensibility that would work with what I do. That's how
Right.
that worked. I just said, all right, let's go with it. And I tried everything he told me to try. Anything he said, I gave it a shot. Sometimes I'd play something and he'd say, never play that again. Or I would play something and he'd go, okay, do that again, but play it right this time. So,
In other
but it
words,
worked
working
out.
with him was a humbling experience, huh?
Randy, the thing is, for me, I tell everybody this. I still always feel like a student of the game. That's really what I am. Like, I just found this jazzer online. Cecil Anderson. I think he teaches at Berklee College of Music. Like, and he's just a bebop, like, savant. And like, I'm going to take some lessons with this cat because like, I just want to keep expanding my bag of what I do and improvise and all that stuff. So, it it's so I don't have any hangups. I didn't have any hangups about anything Bobby suggested. I never took anything personal. I never thought, you know what I mean? It didn't hurt my feelings or none of that stuff.
So the album's The Gathering. I mean, I looked at it as a perfect title, seeing the names you have on there. I mean, gosh, anywhere from Bobby to Mark Rivera. I mean, gosh, he's Ringo and Billy Joel, right? So it's been
Unbelievable.
a lot of years since I've talked to Mark. I'm way overdue to talk to him again. But
Mm-hmm.
so to me, the title, I looked at it and go, all right, it's a gathering of all these great, you know, sometimes underappreciated musicians,
Right.
and so, but tell me the story behind it. What made you two get together and say, all right, this is what we're going to do? You said you wanted to, to hire him to take this thing on and steer the ship, so to speak.
Right.
How'd that all come about?
Okay. So as short as I could make this, I had done a few years with a band called Captain Beyond. It
Hmm.
was the original drummer was still in the band, Bobby Caldwell, and Bobby had played with Johnny Winter. He's on the Johnny Winter and live album. Rick Derringer was the other guitar player on that album in 1970, and then he did the Captain Beyond album, and then he did Rick Derringer's All American Boy album. He was the drummer on Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo, Rick Derringer's version, and so on. So I was in that band, and we would rehearse down in Orlando. And at the time I was in the band, I was reading a book by Colin Hart. Colin Hart was the road manager for Deep Purple
Hmm.
from the Machine Head album on. He went with Richie Blackmore when Blackmore went to Rainbow, and he was the road manager for all the Rainbow years. And when Richie returned to Deep Purple, Colin came back to Deep Purple and road managed the band all the way, even after Richie was out of the band for 10 years. Colin Hart was in that fold for 30 years. So I was in my one cover band that I play with home here. We were looking for some tunes, different tunes to play, and we were doing some like kind of heavy proggy stuff. And I says, we need like a chick tune, like a ballad, something the chicks will like, the girls will like, but I don't want to do something obvious. So I suggested the tune Stone Cold, which was the hit by Rainbow.
Hmm.
So when we were watching the video, because the guys didn't know what tune I was talking about, I'm seeing Bobby Rondinelli on drums. And I was just like, oh my God, because me and my buddy caught this Rainbow concert on MTV when we were like 14 years old, and Bobby had just replaced Cozy Powell. And we were watching this dude play drums, and he was just this big, burly Italian beast. I mean, he just looked like a savage. And we were like, look at this guy. We were just like enamored with him. And so we became the instant Bobby Rondinelli fan club that had two members, me and my buddy Carl. And so when I saw Bobby, I said, wow, man, I wonder what he's up to. And so I just put him on YouTube. I put his name in, and he was doing some promo video for Pasty Cymbals. And the way he was playing now that he's older was so kind of had that jazzy feel to it. The way he was rolling around the kit, less bombastic, more just smooth and fluid. And so I was telling my wife, I says, I'm dying to play with another drummer like Bobby Caldwell, because Bobby Caldwell, the Captain Beyond guy, was from that same era. He's a little bit older than Bobby, but than Rondinelli. So my wife goes, well, say a prayer. Say a prayer that God will give you somebody cool to play with. Because I was just getting kind of bummed out again, playing local gigs, 200 some gigs a year. I'm like, man, I gotta do something again. And so I called Colin Hart. We became really good friends. He'd come to the Captain Beyond rehearsal. So I gave him a call and I says, hey, do you have Bobby Rondinelli's phone number? He goes, yeah, I do. I says, well, can you kind of, introduce me to him and blah, blah, blah. So he did. And then I asked Bobby, I says, hey, man, I'd love to record something with you. And so we started with one song, and it was long distance. I went to a studio here and did some guitar tracks, sent it with the technology we have today. Bobby put
Hmm.
some drums on it, sent it back. My buddy put some bass on it. And I said, "You want to do another one? Yeah, let's do another one." And so the second time we did the second tune we did, Bobby goes, "Hey, you mind if I chop this up and rearrange it a little bit?" I says, "Go ahead." So now he kind of did a new arrangement of the tune, and I thought, "Wow, okay, this is pretty cool." And he goes, "You know, I produce." I says, "Yep, I know you produce." And then at the exact same time, the record label guy, who was my friend, says, "I'll back it up. Let's do it." And I says, "Okay." And so I started going to Long Island, um, about an 8 hour ride, and I would just be in the studio, and Bobby would just coach me. He would produce me, try this, try that. And before you know it, I mean, we recorded 12 tunes. We only did 10 we only 10 made it to the album. And that's how it happened.
Wow. So how long did it take? Or was that whole process from starting when you guys agreed to say, all right, he was going to be your producer to completing the album?
Two,
What kind of time frame was that?
2 years, took 2 years
Wow. Okay.
because I'm a full-time player. So, I mean, I'm playing 200 plus jobs a year. I would like sometimes when I would go there that during the summer, we always would record almost always on a Wednesday. That's one of Bobby's days. He's always in the studio. There were nights where I would play a Tuesday job in Buffalo. The guys would come pick me up from the gig. We would leave Buffalo at like 9:30 at night, get into Long Island about 4 in the morning, sleep for a little bit, go to the studio all day, go back to the hotel, sleep, get up at 7, be on the road by 8 a.m. because I'd always have to play a 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock gig back home. And I did, and we went back and forth probably 30 times to Long Island. And
Wow.
but people were going, "Man, you're crazy, you're crazy." It's not. I said, "It won't happen if I don't do this. If I wasn't willing to do that, it wouldn't have happened." And most guys are, "Man, I couldn't do that." I'm like, "Well, then you can't have an album like this because you gotta.
Right.
It had to be done, you know." So um, it was a bit of a grind, and it took time. And then Bobby started bringing these guys in. So that's when it got really interesting. Is when all these names started being brought up and approached, and almost every guy said yes, and it became the gathering.
Wow. That's the other thing that impressed me. Like I said earlier, is I mean the names. You got heavy hitters on there. I mean
Crazy. Yeah.
it's I mean that was mind blowing, and I think it does explain that fusion, as I would call it.
Right.
Of talent, of sound. I mean, and I don't think everybody that will hear the album will fully appreciate what they bring to the table, what their legacy is already, and then
Sure.
that's the pedigree they brought to the studio for this album, and it shows on the album. I mean, my gosh, it's not a
That's cool.
lightweight album, man. It is
Well,
not.
I'm Randy. I'm. It's nice to hear that because like I says, man, I don't know how it comes across. It's impossible to know when you're so inside of the thing. And the other funny thing to me is with all these names, everybody's going to say, "Who the hell is this Jamie Holka guy? How did this guy?" You know what I'm saying? I look like, "Who the hell is it? What's a Holka?" But it's just that's how crazy it was. And I think, but getting back to the beginning of it, I really did have a sense watching Bobby the way he was playing now, and I know he's a rocker, but I knew that it would work. That what I do and what he does would work together. I could just tell.
Yeah.
Um, and like there's some horns on the album. A couple of songs we got a horn section. It was actually my cousin Chris Tedesco. He's in L.A. He's an L.A. session player, and Bobby was he goes horns. He's like he never, you know what I'm saying, like there were certain things I suggested, and he would just look at me like I was crazy, and I go, just try it, just try it. So sometimes I would, you know, kind of coax him a little bit, and like I said, it all worked. So really, really cool. And yeah, there was so many. I told every guy to play what they wanted to play. I didn't give any instruction. I didn't give any like framework to any of the musicians. They just played what they played, and that's why it came out the way it came out.
That's so cool. Horns. I mean, Hendrix was going to do something with Chicago before he died.
Right.
That's and I think they toured together a little bit. I often wondered what could have happened with that. I mean, that would have
Sure.
been That would have been
Yeah, I
really
was just
cool.
looking for different layers, different wrinkles, to not make everything, I'm obviously the album, you could tell it's all this, it's the same. I don't know how to put it. I just didn't want it to be too predictable, I guess,
Yeah.
and the
Well, it's
horns.
not that, believe me.
Cool.
I mean, as a consumer, I'm not a musician, but I fully appreciate what you guys do and what you go through. I mean,
Yeah.
people see you on the stage and you think that's all it, but man, you guys are, it's a tough way to make a living. It really is. And to listen to this album, I mean, there are albums that I get a lot sent to me, hey, give this a listen. And I do. And, I'm not going to mention any names, of course, but I listen to it and I'm thinking, it just seems so, it seems borderline amateurish with some, and
Mhm.
so I hate to say it, but weak,
Right. Right.
and there's not a beefiness to it. There's not a substance to it. I mean, you could see the formation of it there or hear it, but it's like it's not grabbing me like it could.
Right.
But with yours, man, it is full. It's heavy. It's intricate. It's serious stuff, and I
Wow.
think that
Thanks, man.
I'm excited about it, and
Wow,
uh,
cool,
you
man.
know
That's great to hear, Randy. I especially like you said, being that you're not a musician, I didn't, we didn't want to make an album just for musicians, even though of course it will appeal to musicians because it's that thing, but um, like I just my wife made me get a new car. I was driving a 2011 Equinox that just looked like a 2011 Equinox. And so she
and
goes, "We got to
it
get you."
still lasted.
Oh man, I love that thing. But anyway, so she goes, "Let's get you an upgrade." And I says, "Okay." So anyway, I get the newer car, and they're giving me 3 months of Sirius XM, the stuff, right? So of course I go to the Yacht Rock and I do program it in, and but I'm listening to it, and they got Spyro Gyra on there. Spyro Gyra was from Buffalo originally.
Mhm.
Herb Alpert, there's some Herb Alpert stuff on there that I'm going. Herb Alpert sold like I think almost as many records as like the Beatles. I think,
Yep.
and it's instrumentals, all instrumental music. And I remember Herb Alpert. I watched the thing on him, and he was explaining how Miles Davis was like, "Hey man, I really like the way you play." And Herb wasn't a jazzer, and here's Miles Davis, the Miles Davis. He liked what he did with the melody and just the way he kind of morphed with the eras, because I mean Alpert had hits in the 60s, 70s, 80s. I mean, he always knew how to. So Bobby Rondinelli was the guy that says, instrumental music is never in and it's never out. And so we don't have to try to capture a certain like current thing. We just trying to make accessible instrumental music, and of course there's some playing on it that's more for players. But if you're saying what you're saying, then maybe we're on the right track.
Well, I mean, I don't consider myself an expert on it. I just get to talk to a whole bunch of people who make the music I happen to like. I don't, I like I said, I'm just a fan. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a musical expert, but I think I have a pretty good ear, and I think I can call some things pretty good. And like I said, when I knew Steve was sending me something good when he sent me your stuff, and before I even heard it. And so, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's awesome, awesome stuff. I think that
Wow.
I think as this gets heard, my opinion is you're going to get the serious listener, whether they're a musician or not. And then there's going to be that next layer below them. And that'll be a loyal fan base for you. And of
Yeah.
course, I mean, you have a fan
Yeah.
base with people who already know who you are in your neck of the woods, especially. So
Right.
I think you're sitting pretty on there. What in making the album? What was the biggest surprise you ran into?
Well, first of all, um, Don Airy, the keyboard player, right? I mean, obviously most famous probably for his pipe organ intro to Ozzy Osbourne's Mr. Crowley. Um, hang on. Don The first track he sent for we the first track we sent him was the final track, Get In Fast. You know, the last one. It's got like an Indian vibe and the violins
Yeah,
on there.
yeah.
That's the first one we sent him. And Don got back to Bobby and he goes, "Geez, Bobby, I don't know. That's I'm not feeling that one." And I'm like, "Oh shit, great, this is great." I says, "Well, send him something. Send him the ballad. We sent them Tasty Waves. It's called ballad, beautiful ballad." And Don goes, "Oh, this is lovely." And so he plays on it. He sends it back, and Bobby goes, "Okay, Don, what do we owe you? Because we're paying everybody a flat fee, but if he wanted more, we were going to do it." And Don goes, "Oh, it's on me, man. It's on me." And Bobby's like, "No, no, no, because we want you on more tunes." So, like, here's Don Airy that has played with Ozzy, Jethro Tull, Whitesnake, Gary Moore, Deep Purple. He's been in Deep Purple since 2002. Just going, don't worry about it. It's, you know what I mean? Like, what a nice cat, And so then, we started sending him more stuff. Well, he was making an album with Deep Purple. He was making the current album that they have out now. They were doing videos. They were getting ready to tour, and he would still take the time to do our stuff. And he would send emails and say, "Okay, guys, I'm going to get to this one next Thursday. Next Thursday, you'd have it. You'd have that in your email. His track." And I'm just like, this guy's, and then we go to see Deep Purple when they came close to town here. Me and my wife went backstage and met him and Roger Glover, sweetest guy in the world. And then he gets off the road with Deep Purple and puts out his solo album. So I'm just blown away. He's 76 years old, and he's like,
Wow.
he's just crushing it. He's just working his ass off. And I'm going, wow, like he did not need to do this album for us. He did not need to do it. And he did it. And everything he did made every song better. And he would pick and choose the lines, the accent. I'm going to use a Fender Rhodes here. I'm going to use the organ here. Guy was like, he's a just brilliant musician. The other big surprise was there's a couple more. Mark Rivera showing up, right? I'm just like, he shows up in this Subaru and gets out of the car and got his two saxophones over his shoulders, tall, lean, looks good, man. He comes in, he's all tan. And he just comes in I don't mean to cuss, but he comes in the studio, he comes in the control room. We're all looking at him. He's a Brooklyn guy. Bobby's a Brooklyn guy. So he just walks in the room and everybody's just looking at each other. It's kind of a funny moment. Like everybody's just like nodding their heads, looking at each other. And Rivera goes, as my Brooklyn brothers would say, "What the fuck?" And he comes in and we started the session. And so we get done with the session. And I go, "Hey, man, what do you got coming up?" He goes, "Well, I'm playing the Garden next week with Billy, Madison Square Garden." He goes, "Then next Friday, I got to fly out to LA because I'm Ringo's musical director."
Mm-hmm.
And so I go, "Can I ask you one more question? Then why are you here?" And he goes, "Man," he goes, I like to work. I like to stay working. And then I find out he lived an hour and 45 minutes away from the studio. He drove an
Wow.
hour and 45 each way to come and play this on these tracks. And I was just, because there's guys in my hometown that think they're something and they act like, you know what I'm saying, the King of England, and the things that they won't do. Here's this guy played Billy Joel, freaking he's on that Foreigner tune. He's on a
Yep.
Peter Gabriel tune. He toured with Elton John when they did the thing. He works with Ringo. Like, blew my mind that he did this for us. And of course he didn't do it for free, but he didn't need to do it.
Yeah,
Didn't have to
yeah.
do it.
Just because they don't do something for free still doesn't mean that if you got the money, they will make themselves available.
Right,
It's
right. So
so.
those kinds of things. And Danny Miranda, the one bass player, he had just gotten off the plane from Bulgaria playing a festival with Blue Oyster Cult on the Tuesday. Bobby got a hold of him. We were gonna be in the studio the next day. He goes, "Hey, can you come by the studio tonight?" I was like, "Just got off the plane from Bulgaria." I'm thinking, okay, he's probably shot. You know, he's tired. He goes, I'll be there. We sent him the tune overnight. He came in, he wrote out a chart, boom, like laid it down. Like same thing, man. Just the work ethic of these heavyweights. You see why they are who they are, because
Yeah,
their
exactly.
ethic, their work ethic. They are workers. They're not too cool to do anything. You know, nothing's beneath them. And I learned a lot from that, man. From all those guys just being, you know, really that was a big eye opener.
How did Billy Sheehan get into the picture? Same kind of thing?
Yeah, well, Billy's from Buffalo. I'm Niagara Falls. We're 20 minutes from Buffalo. I'm 20 minutes from where Billy Sheehan's from. Billy's a lot older than me, but yeah, Bobby goes, "You want Billy Sheehan on the album?" And I'm like, Billy Sheehan ain't gonna play on this album. Bobby puts out a call. Billy's in. I'm like, unbelievable. So yeah, Billy actually the third we got the one video out now, and then we got two more coming. Billy's on the third one. And but that worked out nice because Stork, the record label, uh had is in Nashville, and Billy now lives in Nashville. So they got to, Billy showed up at the studio that they work out of down there. And same thing. Billy does two songs for us. There was a flat rate for everybody's pay for each song. Billy gave us the second tune half price. Like,
Wow.
who does that? Again, he don't need the money. He's in Mr. Big. He was getting ready to do a huge world tour with Mr. Big. Half price on the second tune. Amazing. It's humbling, man, because these guys they're the heavyweights, and they're not like I said, nothing's beneath them to do. I mean, obviously Bobby Rondinelli. It proved to me too that Bobby, everybody takes his call, everybody
Mhm.
returns his call. Bobby has, he's conducted himself the right way in the business, because everybody knows him and respects him. And so
Yep.
that's the other thing I took from all that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't I think the first time I realized who um, Sheehan was wasn't he didn't he play in David Lee Roth's first solo band with Steve Vai and all that?
Greg
That's what I
Bissonette, yeah.
thought. Yeah, yeah.
But
So
Billy Sheehan, his Buffalo band was called Talus. And Talus, when I was growing up, that was they were the shit. I mean, they had tunes on the local radio. Um, I have older buddies. My first guitar teacher, Jim Jekovich, he had a band, and they used to play the same club as Billy did. Sometimes they'd open for Talus and all this. So this club would pay the bands the door, and so my buddy Jim goes, yeah, on a good night, he goes, we'd make $500. He goes, Talus always made 3 grand. So these guys would hack these clubs, and Billy was from outer space. I mean, what he was doing. I mean, he looked like my brother used to go see him. He goes, yeah, I saw a she looked like a praying mantis, because he just had this crazy deal, you know what I mean? But it was just what he did was so innovative, but he still did it in a rock context, in the context of songs,
yeah,
which is very cool, man. It's got to make some sense. Same thing. That kind of bass playing doesn't relate to everybody, but he puts it in songs. You know what I mean? That
right,
people.
right.
So yeah, that's how that happened. And but what a trip for me. I mean, I'm thinking
I
Billy Sheehan.
bet.
There's no way in hell, man. There he is.
Well, I've said that if every bass player was like Billy or Nathan East or Jerry Sheff, there would be no such thing as bass player jokes. So
Right. But then there's a couple other bass players on this album. Kenny Aronson, he's in the video that
Mhm.
we have out now. Kenny is like he can channel that old Motown
Yeah,
thing so well. And the tune that's out now, just like that, the video that we have out now on the social media thing, Kenny sound. I mean, it sounds like James Jamerson or some. It just sounds so. I'm so like to have that kind of bass playing on one of my tunes. I just can't believe it. And then there's Jimmy Haslip is on a couple tunes. Jimmy, I mean,
mhm,
he played with Tommy Bolin, who was one of my absolute heroes. He played with Alan Holdsworth. He was in the Yellow Jackets. Kenny Aronson, I mean, geez, Billy Idol, Billy Squire, Rick Derringer. Brian Setzer, Bob Dylan. He's in the Yardbirds right now. It's nuts. It's crazy. Um, but that's I don't know. Somehow it happened.
So yeah, and boy, what a way for it to happen.
Yeah.
What's the song on the album that you would point people to as a calling card for the rest of the record?
Well, the next one that's coming out is called Confession Session.
Hmm.
Speaking of bass players, Father Stan Fortuna is the bass player. He's a Franciscan monk.
Ah,
You,
okay.
you would have never heard of him, but it's interesting because he has a pretty big YouTube presence. He's a jazz bassist from the Bronx,
Hmm.
but he also raps. He's a rapper, but he's a real Franciscan. I mean, he's a true he's a Catholic monk, and that tune is pretty. I just love it. I don't know. I'm curious because that's the next single that's coming out. How that one's gonna be received because that's probably like my favorite one. But I don't know that. You know what I'm saying? It's hard for me to pick one like that. But Father Stan, man, that dude. I mean, what a bass player. I mean, like a true jazz musician, a real jazzer. And I mean, he showed up. He wears the habit. I mean, he shows up at the session and in the video, same thing. I mean, he's the real deal. Bobby Rondinelli loves him. He goes, man, we should get him in the band. And it's like, Bobby, he's a priest, man. I go, this dude ain't, he's
Yeah,
not
but
doing.
you
He
know
can't.
what?
He can't.
To add to that, but there was an old band way back when called Mason Prophet, and there's two brothers in there, Terry and John Talbot. John Talbot is a
Oh,
Franciscan,
John
or
Michael
was.
Talbot.
Yeah,
John Michael
John
Talbot.
Michael Talbot. Yeah, he got into Christian music for a long time, and but man, I've watched him play. He played at a Catholic church in Phoenix when I was growing up there, and I mean, I just watched him as like,
Yeah, I saw
I'm a
him
big
here.
Big
Yeah, I
Phil
saw he
Kagi
came to
fan, so
town.
any talent like that, I'm just like
Mhm.
all over it. And so I don't know if he's still in the priesthood or not, but he was putting out some great records there for a while.
Yeah, we saw him here. He came to Niagara Falls and he did the whole like classical style thing. He
Hmm.
played
Hmm.
like a classical concert, and I'm on his mailing list. Yeah, he's still going.
Wow.
He's still
I
happening.
need to
John
look
Michael
him up
Talbot.
and talk to him, man, because he just floored me when
Yeah.
and such a dedication to the art and to
Yep.
his faith, obviously.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people think of Christian music and they think, oh, it's Southern gospel. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but they don't think that there's some intricacy there. But when you got a John Michael Talbot or a Phil Kagi, I
Phil
mean,
Kagi. Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I tell you, there's something really interesting when you work with someone like that too. A real, not somebody that talks the talk but walks the walk. I mean, Father Stan was it was amazing. Again, just another um, top top notch musician that lent their talent to this album and just made it better. Made all these guys
Yep.
just kept building the level higher.
Yep. Yep. So, what's on your radar now? This album's out or coming out, and it's coming out, right? It hadn't even been released yet, has it?
Correct. The whole thing comes out the first week of June, but we're
Okay.
going to release the second single May 9th, and then we're going to
Okay.
release one more single the first week of June that the album comes out, and then yep, the whole thing comes out. But you can pre-order the vinyl now, and yeah, we're trying to just get just getting the singles are just kind of getting everybody ready for the whole thing.
You mentioned some names. I wasn't going to do this, but since I got a few minutes here, and I hope you do too, you
Yeah,
can't see my office behind me because I have this virtual background of your cover, but I've got just all sorts of autographed albums.
yeah,
And so among the first interviews I did, Leslie West, you
yeah, man,
mentioned him,
yeah,
Rick Derringer,
yep. I got a
I
signed
got
album right there from Rick. The All
uh,
American Boy album. Yeah.
yeah, mine signed too. So Johnny Winter, Edgar
Yeah.
Winter, I mean, you've mentioned all those guys that were influences
Yeah.
of yours,
Yep.
and I mean, these guys were, you know, and Leslie I've interviewed a couple of times before he passed, but the first time I interviewed him was right after I launched Boomerocity. I was backstage. He was doing one of these hippie fest tours, which are kind of like a caravan of stars type of things. And
Right.
I have a picture of me talking with him backstage. And so a while later, after he lost his leg, you know,
Yeah.
he had that leg amputated. I
Hmm.
mentioned that to him. I said, "Hey man, since I last talked to you, you lost your leg." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "If you see it, would you please send it back to me?" This guy's a character, you know, because
Oh yeah.
there's a marked difference between I can't remember. I interviewed him at least two times, maybe three, but there was a you know I didn't know which Leslie I was going to get, you know, because
Right.
he's kind of all over the map. He's kind of volatile or was.
Yep.
And of course, I talked to Corky a few years later. It was after Leslie had died, and I made that kind of comment. And he goes, "Well, then you had him pegged just exactly right."
Right. Yeah, I've heard some stuff from. I mean, Bobby Rondinelli played with him the last 10 years of his life. That was Bobby was Leslie's last drummer. So I've heard some tales, man.
Yeah, he could put it to you, you know. But
Yeah.
so what are you going to do after this? You got this album coming out. So what's on your radar? What you going to do to support it?
Well, like we're gonna do a show in Buffalo on June 6th. Like just an album release uh event. Bobby's coming to town, and Kenny Aronson on bass, and local guy Jeff Jekovich playing the organ for us. Um, and I mean, we are hoping that we may be able to. That's the next thing to decide. I mean, um, if we could get if we can get some traction, if we can make a little bit of noise with the album, and it gets some legs under it. Ultimately, what would be great would be to see if we could get on the leg of a tour with somebody, as maybe the opener to the opener. And if we could raise enough awareness where we could do our own, club kind of tour. I mean, me and Bobby just ended up having such a nice chemistry that we both just said, "Man, I hope we get to do it again." And so all we're trying to do is do well enough that we get to make another album. That's the goal. And so whatever that takes, they gave us a number of albums. Like if you sell this amount of albums, then we'll be able to do another album. So I think we can do it, especially with like guys like Steve Karras helping us, and
Yeah.
interviews like this. Like thanks for having me on. By the way, I mean I can't believe anybody wants to talk to me, but it's really just that we just had a nice time and we like the result, and we hope we can do it again. That's the goal. If more happens, then great.
Well,
I'm just
I
yes,
cer
to be seen.
I hope it does because the sound is worthy of the time to listen to, more than worthy. And I'm a fan. So, you know,
Thank you.
I hope you make it bigger and really big. And then of course it'd be nice if you remember me then. So,
Of course, my first podcast for heck yeah, man. First guy to have my album cover up on his virtual background. Of course, I remember that.
well, you can have it. I can send you the link if you want it to use in the future. It's easy to do. But
Cool.
I love what you've got going there, and I
Thank you.
want to see a lot more of you cranking a lot more out. Actually, is what I meant to say. And
I
so
sure hope so.
please, when you've got anything going on, let me know, and we'll set up one of these, and we'll chat some more because it's
Randy, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
so.
Yeah, can you
Listen,
and make sure you send me the link to the podcast. I'll put it out there and get some,
absolutely. So let's stay in touch, and if you get near here, let me know, and I'll make arrangements to come see you.
you got it, man. Thanks, Randy. Awesome, bro. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. Take care and be safe.
You too, man. Peace. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.